It's time for Tech Talk with Matthew Dickerson, and I'm your host, Tony Graham. G'day, Matthew.
Hey, good afternoon, Tony. Great to be chatting again.
It certainly is. It always is. Getting straight into it now, batteries. Now, we'll soon be able to charge our batteries very fast, will we? Is that on the cards?
Well, Quick Charge 5 is a new standard that's been announced by Qualcomm. You won't see any phones with it yet, but the standard, which obviously is what manufacturers will make their chargers and their batteries to that standard, promises 50% charge in less than 5 minutes and a full charge in under 15 minutes. Now, sometimes it doesn't make sense for people when they look at that and they say, well, if it does 50% in 5 minutes, why can't I do 100% in 10 minutes? And what happens with batteries typically is as they get closer to being fully charged, they do slow down, which is better for the battery and reduces the chance of something like a fire or any sort of explosion occurring. So 50% charge is often what they do talk about as a bit of a standard. So 50% charge in 5 minutes, you've got your battery, it's getting a bit flat, stick it in the charger for 5 minutes, half charged, away you go again. So I think that's a great standard. And as we keep developing different standards for phones and different electronic devices, cameras, that type of thing, this same sort of technology that you see to make charging faster for those devices flows through to a whole range of other devices such as drones or cars and other devices as well. So the idea is as the development occurs, it occurs across the entire game.
Well, I think that'll be marvellous because, currently what a lot of people do, including myself, is at night time, the battery might be half flat, and if you don't put it into the charger a good half an hour to an hour before you go to bed, and you're really stuck with leaving it on all night, and that's not great for the battery, is it?
Yeah, look, I think they've got the technology now where it is still okay to be plugged in overnight because it's monitoring the amount of charge on there. But you're right, it's probably better to plug it in, fully charge it than unplug it. But I think one of the things that I talk about with technology a lot, Tony, is making sure technology works around us rather than us working around technology. So in that example there, I'm a fan of saying if it's convenient for you to plug it in and leave it overnight, do that. And if it means that your battery doesn't get quite the longevity that it may have got by being perfect in what you're doing, but it's more convenient for your life, then go with the lifestyle version and replace the battery in a shorter time frame. So again, you can get very focused on doing exactly the right thing with battery charging, but who's got the time for that? Just live your life.
Yeah, well, that's a fair point. And that's what people do. So if products don't fit into that, they don't sell very well, do they?
No, that's right. And so then I think you've hit the nail on the head, Tony. It's up to the manufacturers to make sure their technology works around people's lives, not having a whole bunch of rules that you've got to adhere to use some of that technology.
Exactly right.
Life advice here as well, Tony, not just technology, life advice as well.
Well, you get it all here on Tech Talk, don't you? Now, coronavirus. Wills are being witnessed by VideoLink, and they're now going to be legal. So that's probably a step forward, isn't it?
It is, and this is in the UK in particular. But again, what we're seeing with COVID-19 is things happen in one part of the world and lots of other parts of the world learn from what happened in one particular country. It makes sense to allow wills to be witnessed by VideoLink because people that are writing out wills are often in that target age demographic for coronavirus to be, or the most vulnerable for coronavirus. So the last thing I want to do is have someone that's elderly and frail sit down with a couple of other witnesses where they might catch COVID-19 from them, and then obviously that might need that will in a much shorter time frame. So the idea is in the past it hasn't been legal to do it via VideoLink, but they've now made it legal in the UK and they've backdated it back to the 31st of January. So if someone made a will back in March or April this year and they had it all witnessed via video, then that now is legal. And the idea is you'll still have the same rules around it. You must be over the age of 18, you must have 2 witnesses. Those witnesses, logically, cannot be beneficiaries of the will. So you need people that are completely independent of the will and of the process. So the same rules apply in terms of all of that. It just means they don't have to physically be there to sign now. And we've seen lots of discussions we've had, Tony, over the last 4 or 5 months around coronavirus. We're seeing things happen with technology. We're seeing things happen with legislation that have happened much quicker than they may have otherwise. And the coronavirus, if you're looking for any positive, apart from the terrible fact that we've got lots of deaths around the world, but if you're looking for any positive, it has accelerated some changes that may have taken years and years to come through.
Yeah, so physically, when it comes to the signing, that would basically mean that the the will would have to be witnessed by you, a video being signed by your two witnesses who'd have to be together as they signed it.
Well, I don't think the two witnesses have to be together. I think the two witnesses can be separate, but obviously it has to be videoed them. So effectively, your will would consist of the paper document and then the videos of the witnesses signing that paper document, and obviously the person who the will is associated with as well signing that. So your will then becomes part of a technology component and part of the old paper component.
Yeah. Yeah, so it could be a two-stage process by you've got two witnesses in different spots, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly right. Or you might just have a video conference where you actually record the video conference where you've got all people together. So you might logically email out the email to the will to the various people needing to sign it, and then you all do a video conference together where you all sign your own independent documents, but effectively you're videoing that whole process.
Yeah. Now here's one close to home for me. A space company has chosen the Blandshire, where I grew up, as the base to launch airships into the Earth's stratosphere.
Well, I've never heard you called Bland before, Tony, so I didn't realise you grew up in the Blandshire. But
oh, I did. Yes.
So it's interesting because Bland, they've been doing some work over the years and in some marketing of the Blandshire, and I think some of the stuff is great. They joined forces with, of course, Dell in Scotland and Boring in the US for a marketing campaign. They had the process there to almost take advantage of the fact that they've got a very bland name. But there's a company called Thunderstruck Space, and they've chosen the Blandshire as a location to launch some of their remote-controlled airships up into the Earth's stratosphere. So they sit around 23 kilometres up in above the Earth. They sit there for weeks, sometimes even longer, maybe months even, and they effectively monitor various things. So they might monitor border patrol, for example. There's various things they might monitor, but they need somewhere to launch them from. They need somewhere where the terrain is not a forest, for example, fairly flat, the ability to basically not have their equipment snagged on things when they bring it back down to Earth. So they chose the Blandshire as somewhere they think they could launch those from and then allow them to bring them back down. So I think it's just another thing, not a lot of participation from Blandshire in terms of doing things there on the ground, but I still think it's great to see them in the news and taking advantage of that name and marketing something that might be seen as a negative.
Well, having grown up there, I have to say, Matthew, it was certainly not negative.
That's good.
Anyway, you've been listening to Tech Talk with Matthew Dickerson on Binjang 91.5